lives in the cities, they have pensions, so long as the government can contrive to pay them. My wife Hilary and I came to visit this hillside village, staying in an Athenian friend's holiday house in 2006, and, seduced by the beauty of the sea below and the mountains behind, as well as the friendliness of the people, bought a house for ourselves. There were several for sale, in various stages of decay, as there had been since the 1970s, when a few German visitors acquired the more inaccessible houses and restored them. By the time we bought ours, the village population of about 300 was roughly 60% Greek and 40% foreign, mostly Germans, who had somehow, by their good manners and contribution to the prosperity of the village, redeemed their nation's reputation and earned the goodwill of people their fathers had crushed and persecuted. Our house, a traditional rectangular box with stone walls a metre thick, and its courtyard below and terraces above, were completely redesigned and rebuilt by a young architect, son of a Greek father and German mother. He employed and worked with local artisans, builder, plumber, electrician, carpenter, blacksmith, plasterers and decorators, and Albanian labourers to do the heavy work, and, contrary to all the bad stories about foreigners' houses never being finished and costing twice the original budget, finished the job in a year at the agreed price. When it was nearly ready, sufficiently for us to move in, we held a ceremony on one of the newly built stone terraces above the house. I made a brief speech and poured a libation of Greek wine, to the gods of this place, on the earth round a newly planted lemon tree. The Greeks present at the ceremony looked surprised. They had, after all, been Orthodox Christians for about 1,500 years. But for me, Greece was still the land of its ancient gods and their myths. I studied Greek, Latin, and ancient history at school, visited Greece for the first time as a student in 1959, and, driving these days along the new roads from Athens to Arcadia, passing signs to Eleusis, Thebes, Corinth, Nemea, Mycenae, and through the narrow streets of Argos, still feel as much part of a world of myth and ancient history as of modern reality. I was against buying the house at first on perfectly rational grounds. I disliked travelling and we didn't have enough money, but on a sudden instinct changed my mind overnight. When we got home to London and I unearthed the diary I kept on my first visit to Greece in 1959, I found an entry I had entirely forgotten. Over a drink at a cafe, my friends and I speculated about where we would be living when we were old, and I said I would be living in Greece. At that time I was under the spell of Lawrence Durrell's 4-volume novel, The Alexandria Quartet, and his travel books, and when I visited Greece again 3 years later, newly married to Hilary, we still had Durrell's Reflections on a Marine Venus in our rucksack. But we did not go there again until 44 years later, and, whatever her motives for buying the house, my own must have included an element of homecoming, of partly belonging to a place which I had spent my teens studying, and where so much of our Western civilization began. The ancient Greeks, after all, laid the foundations of our logic, philosophy, physics, chemistry, biology, medicine, astronomy, history, art, architecture, literature, drama, politics, and even religion, since the New Testament was written in Greek, and much of its story and teaching is Greek-inspired. Mine was probably the last generation to be educated in the classics as standard, and the last, therefore, to be on easy terms with the innumerable references to and recycling of the Greek myths in Western art, literature, drama, music, and opera. Many people have retold them with many variations, and they remain, because of the way they were honed and refined by the great originators of Western literature, Homer, Hesiod, Herodotus, Pindar, Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, the most profound, sophisticated, and humane myths produced by any culture anywhere. And the point about myths of this quality is that they become ageless and universal. Their interpretation of human behavior and motivation becomes exemplary, in the true sense, classical, even when the characters involved, whether gods or mortals, are recognized to be fictional and possessed of powers which later ages understand to be impossible in reality. Stories have their own rules, and the best stories, like these, create a world the reader can live in as long as the story lasts. The Greek gods, for all their superhuman powers, are swayed by human emotions.